particular biochar-based nitrogen fertilizer. But I'm calling this biochar-based NPK fertilizer because we're dealing with chicken litter, and it's also high in phosphorus and potassium. So the term that's being kicked around now is BBNF, if you want to do a little search on it. This is a paper that came out of China recently that looks into this. You notice there's two other people in there that are from Australia. So this is where most of this research is happening right now, and we're trying to start something here. So this brings up an important issue, which is biochar a fertilizer? This is an ongoing discussion and debate, and my delight is to look most farmers in the eye and say, no, it's not. And of course, it immediately confounds them, and well, what good is it then? So this is very important to understand what biochar is and how to work with the properties and qualities that it offers. So it's not a source of nutrients. However, it is a source of several other important functions that are needed for a successful soil system. The first one is it's a sponge. It consists of microspores that will absorb and hold water. And these are a few quick slides that show what it looks like as a physical structure. Here's a couple of chunks of biochar, and if we zoom in on it and look more closely, we'll see it's got lots of cavities in it. Part of its structure is biomass material. But if we look in even closer, we'll discover that each little fragment of this is further perforated with pore spaces, because plants are mostly water and their physical anatomy is pipes and tubes to move that water around inside. When we make charcoal, when we char this, we empty out all the contents and we're left with this empty, hollow structure. This is why charcoal is so lightweight, is because it's been emptied out and it's hollow and empty inside. And this emptiness is useful because now we can fill it up with stuff that we want to be there and that soil needs to be there. So this is very important to understand this micropore structure. And these are more slides to show you more biomass material and how they look, so you can appreciate the elegant architecture of what is inside one of these grains, because they have huge internal capacity. There is thousands of times more inner surface area in a grain of char than there is external surface area. And all of that internal surface area will capture and hold water. These are pieces of softwood biochar we're looking at here. And then you can see this gets even more elegant, the architecture, the perforations, the structures that are created. My father used to teach wood products engineering and taught wood identification, and you can identify a species of wood by examining its grain structure with a hand lens. This is how precise nature is in the architecture of this biomass. This, on the other hand, is some hardwood, and you can see the pore spaces are much smaller capacity, harder to move water inside and out of this structure. So these are three types of biomass: hardwood oak, softwood pine, and corncob biochar. And you can look in a quick glance and see that these have physical structures that are vastly different and are going to perform differently in soil. And this is part of the struggle we're embarked with biochar, is understanding these different structures and how they fit in soil systems. So this is my particular dilemma, is I'm not particularly interested in making biochar, but I am interested in what we have to do to get it into soil and to get a good effect from it. My concern is the soil itself. So one of the first things we need to appreciate is that carbon and water have a ancient and intimate relationship, and they work very closely together. Yeah.
How are you doing? Okay, don't worry. Joe just called me. He's at the bank. He's making the deposit, and he's going to send the wire. He's at the bank now.
Okay.
It's 10:30, and so it's 7:30 your time. We're good. As soon as I know that. As soon as I know.
I'm waiting for a cue whether I should continue here. Hello?
Yes, continue.
Oh, continue. All right. So because of this relationship between carbon and water, 1 gram of carbon in soil can hold up to 8 grams of water because they nest together so closely. And we now understand that once you put this amount of water and carbon in place, this creates green carbon, which is the result of photosynthesis, and that pumps another 10 grams of carbon into the soil, and that feeds the microorganisms, which then yields another 10 grams of white carbon that's in the soil. So this is the thing we're trying to create, is this liquid carbon cascade into the soil. And the black carbon is just the beginning of putting this system into place. So if we do this, we find that in water or in soil, sand is typically very open and porous and drains quickly. But if we add biochar, it slows the movement of water through it. On the other hand, counterintuitively, clay is very tight and doesn't drain well. But if we add biochar, it makes it more porous, and water accelerates its movement through clay. So this is a very important first service that char does in soil, is it helps it to process water better. Next thing is it's a storehouse. It absorbs ions by electrical charge. And this means that it has a cation exchange capacity. If you add biochar to soil, you should expect a large jump in the cation exchange capacity of the soil system, depending on the volume of char you add and its charge capacity, charge density. However, char has another property which is not well understood, not well recognized, and that is it also attracts and holds not just positive ions, but negative ions. And in this case, we're talking about nitrogen and phosphorus, which is the N and P of NPK fertilizer. So char has a very unique and special ability to attract and hold nitrogen and phosphorus. This is absolutely critical because, as we know, in conventional agriculture, that 60 to 90% of the nitrogen fertilizer put on soil does not wind up in the plants and winds up migrating into the watersheds and other places. So if we can put biochar in soil, it will capture and hold that nitrogen and the phosphorus and keep it from migrating out of the system. So this is the second thing that biochar does, is it provides a storehouse to hold these ions inside the soil and prevent them from leaching away. The third part is now we have water and nutrients. It becomes a substrate. The microorganisms move in and live in it and provides refuge from all the predators swimming around in the soil system. And so they can organize themselves into colonies and communities and become a functional system on your soil system. The fourth thing is that then the soil becomes structured because these living organisms reach out and structure all the soil around each grain of biochar. A similar thing happens when we see how iron with a little bit of carbon, about 3% carbon, will turn into structural steel. So a small amount of this type of stable carbon will similarly structure soil. And this is what soil is. It's one of the most complex structured systems on the planet. So these are the 4 services that biochar does provide. And one of them is it does hold nutrients. So this is the project we're started here, try and put together a proposal to set up a facility to produce biochar, add it to poultry barns in the litter, then harvest that and take it out and compost it with certain alkaline minerals in order to produce a high value replacement for NPK fertilizer. So this is the verbal description. So this is a must-do thing. If farmers do not have a replacement for chemical fertilizers, they will not change the way they farm much. So this is what we're doing. We're trying to create a biochar-based NPK fertilizer. And the base material will be poultry litter. We have a man who harvests or who handles the litter from 60 poultry barns. Each harvest or each holds probably 20 or 30,000 birds. They put litter on the bottom of these barns, and periodically the litter is removed And usually it's just dumped, but this man has been composting it and then putting it on farmland. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture this, and we're going to add the biochar there to begin to soak up the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium, and other toxic substances. The biochar will absorb the ammonia. The biochar will absorb the methane. It'll absorb a lot of the other off gases that are produced from the litter and keep them becoming part of the barn atmosphere and improve the health of the barn, not only for the birds, for the people that have to work in the barn. And then we're going to use advanced composting methods to assure that this material is properly broken down and digested and stable and ready to go in soil and provoke a outburst of biological activity in that soil. Okay, let me see about this. Get this bar across my screen. There we go. Okay, so biochar production will be from wood waste from a nearby woodworking facility. And the biochar, as we know, is super stable, complex carbon that delivers services to help soil work better. One thing I'd like to point out is that biochar also stores electrons like a battery to deliver electric charge and power the growth of microbes and plants. Biochar acts like a battery in the soil. That's something you should think about. So biochar is made by burning biomass, excluding oxygen. In this case, our first priority is to produce biomass that we can put inside the poultry barns. Oh, here we go again. Excuse me a second. Okay, good. I gotta move this thing somewhere. So this is another bunch of slides I stuck in from another slide show. Not usually a good idea, but these are some important information. This is talking about how much char to use. So what I tell people is 10% is optimum amount of carbon in soil, and half of that can be this kind of super stable biochar. And so if we look at an optimum rate of putting this down, this is what it looks like in gallons per 100 square feet or tons per acre. This is pretty pricey for most farmers, so we try and cut it down, and I tell people to get at least 2% in there initially. That cuts the numbers down and farmers look a little happier, but still, you're asking them to put out some coin here. So if we go with a gradual system of adding 1% per year, we can meter this out over a series of several years. We can even cut it down even further and do 0.5% a year and take 10 years to put down enough of this. So I'm going to jump through this. So the last part is what we're going to do next. The key is not just to put down raw biochar, but to properly prepare it. Don't put it down when it's empty. When you go to a store, you don't buy batteries that don't have any electrons. You buy batteries that have electrons in it. Otherwise, you won't buy them again. So the same thing's true with biochar. You want to charge your char for your customers. They'll be happy and they'll come back and buy more. So the 5 steps I teach to prepare biochar for deployment in soil are the 5 M's. The first M is to micronize it, reduce the particle size. Think like a microorganism. The second M is to moisten it. It's bone dry when it comes out of a burner. If you don't quench it, it needs moisture if it's going to work in your soil, so you should add that moisture yourself. And the water that goes into char is not ordinary water. There is a reaction that happens between the carbon in the water that structures the water as well as the carbon. The third M is mineralize. Most of the electrons and charge has been cooked out, so you have to add it to it so it can become a functional part of your soil system. And the best way to do that is to add forms of minerals such as sea salt or rock dust or fertilizers or manure, etc. If you add manure, you're taking it to the 4th M, which is microbial inoculation. Once you have the moisture and the minerals, you can add the living organisms that want to feast on that stuff. And the final part, in order to kickstart these microorganisms, get them working inside your char, you need to add some food for them, some metabolites that they can chow down on and grow rapidly. So this is the 5 M's that I teach people about how to prepare the char. I'm just going to jump through this real quick. If you bother to put together a process to sell your customers prepared biochar, they will be excited to get it and they will come back and buy more. All right, so moving quickly along, the next piece of this puzzle is alkaline minerals. Alkaline minerals particularly are, in this case, from the sea or from volcanic rocks that provide primary elemental nutrients. In particular, I'm concerned about trace elements, transition elements, and rare earth elements, which are typically here in the Midwest badly deficient, and I'm pretty sure are badly deficient in India from what I could see there too. So these are the alkaline minerals. This is your alkaline battery charger. So since the char is short in these things, we can improve its function in soil by adding more alkaline minerals to it. We can also improve the value of this material as a fertilizer if we add more alkaline minerals to it. So one thing that the minerals do is they bind to the volatile compounds and help to stabilize them and retain them inside our composting mass. They also help to aggregate the organic molecules and improve the stability of the eventual product. They create more stable carbon. And they also provide a reaction. Some of them provide a reaction with CO2 and form carbonates, which buffer the pH in soil. This is something that life needs, is a stable pH. And this is sequestering more carbon by creating these stable carbonates inside the soil. So adding alkaline minerals is a way to enhance what we're already trying to do with this substance. So let's see. There's two sources we're going to work with. One is sea minerals, which I've been involved with marketing here in this United States for about 25 years. Another one is going to be some volcanic rock from a 1.3 billion year old volcano that's about 40 miles away in southeast Missouri. And they have a waste product of crushing this volcanic rock. They have a dust. And we're going to ask them for their waste material, and we're going to add it to our composting minerals and enhance the eventual elemental value of this substance. So moving quickly, once we produce this fertilizer and get it composted, then we have to blend it. And this is not something to be taken for granted because we're dealing with large-scale commercial agriculture with high standards of what they will accept as a product. So convenience and cost and all that becomes critical. So developing a blending facility will also be a critical part of making this a successful facility. There will be certain other substances we'll probably add to our compost. For example, clay is an essential part of any soil system, and adding a little bit of clay will increase the rate at which this material digests and decrease the time we have to compost the material. So there's certain substances that will be added to the compost in order to enhance the digestion. And we'll also look at enhancing the microbial complex in here. One thing that intrigues me is the idea of developing nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live inside of biochar. Nitrogen-fixing requires an anaerobic environment, and inside of biochar, this kind of environment can be created, and nitrogen-fixing organisms can survive here and fix nitrogen inside grains of char. We need to find these and get them to work inside our char and learn how to inoculate our char with them. Okay, so the next part of this is easy for us. Our man we're working with already distributes the product of this cleaning out of these poultry barns, and so we already have a whole bunch of farms that are ready to receive this material. What we need to do is set up field trials and monitor the results and show that this is a high value fertilizer that at least equals the effectiveness of NPK fertilizers. So we'll take about 3 years to put this whole experimental project into motion and develop a database that shows that this is working. And we'll have to, of course, publish the material and so on. Okay, so this is getting close to the end. There are additional possibilities here, and I'll just run through these real quick. There are further things that are spin-offs of this. One of them, of course, is carbon sequestration. The other one is renewable energy. Carbon sequestration means that we can create carbon credits. This is a carbon negative process. It's putting carbon out of the atmosphere and into the soil. So we are creating soil carbon sinks. This is also creating carbon credits. And we're going to have to get involved in learning how to market these things. And this is another spin-off that will come out of this. And there is a significant amount of potential income that people are looking at as this carbon credit system is developed here in the next decade. So carbon markets is a hot topic in America. A lot of people are discussing it. There are a lot of experiments on how to develop them. There's no agreement on how to go forward. Currently, anywhere from $40 to $600 a ton is being paid for carbon that's being put in soil. $600 a ton is being paid by Microsoft. They were funding a new industry that's turning corn stalks into biochar. And they're also producing biochar, which currently they're just going to dump in holes in the ground because they don't have a use for it. So the next step in this, the final step in this, is to not just make biochar, but produce renewable power. So by using pyrolysis, we can extract various useful energy products, including process heat, syngas, wood vinegar, bio-oil, and ultimately electric power. We've already done a project here in Missouri 8 years ago where we were producing electric power and heat to heat poultry barns. We're going to take this up another step and produce, hopefully, community scale electric power off of this plant. So that's it. That's the project. Hope I didn't move too quickly, but wanted to get through all this and not take too much time and leave some time for questions. The situation is we're waiting for USDA to issue the request for proposals, at which point we'll take what is a narrative description and shoehorn it into their application form and submit this for probably a multi-million-dollar grant from the USDA to produce this innovative American-made fertilizer. This is a very big thing in America right now. It's creating these replacements for NPK fertilizers and changing agriculture. So we want to get involved in this and make sure that biochar gets a piece of this action. I'm done.
Yes, thank you very much,